Hey everybody, this is Jeff Livingston with Cognitive Path. I'm here with Nora, the Director of Data Science for Apt Global. How are you?
I'm great, thanks.
And you're in Silver Spring, right?
I'm in Silver Spring, Maryland, right up the Beltway, off the Beltway.
It's pretty up there, right? I mean,
It is. We've got everything you want, from downtown shops and restaurants to trails along the Anacostia Northwest Branch.
how do you like it right now in peak foliage? Is it amazing?
Oh, it's
right
absolutely gorgeous. Just driving down here for this conference has been
now?
fabulous.
Rock Creek, right?
Oh, amazing.
Amazing is
Yeah.
right, yeah. Very cool. So, I mean, obviously, being the Director of Data Science, you're probably directly involved in AI. I don't know what tipped me off to that. But, given that and your experience working with the government, how do you think AI is going to fundamentally transform the way governments serve their citizens, their taxpayers, if you would?
Yeah, so, at Apt, we're a data company through and through. We've been around for 6 years. We started off doing social science research for the government, and we've really put data first. So from our perspective, the most important thing is getting the data right, getting the data ready for AI. I see artificial intelligence as, it's going to transform the way that public citizens interact with their own data. It's going to change the way that government is making decisions and making predictions about beneficiaries. And hopefully it's going to transform our ability to provide services to the people that need it the most, the vulnerable people that government is really here to serve.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Given that data first approach, I mean, is that really what makes your company's way of working with AI unique and stand out as you're delivering services to government agencies and their citizens?
Yeah, I would say that's something that really distinguishes us is we're really familiar with the whole data lifecycle. So we start with collecting the data. We have a data collection practice. So we're doing phone surveys, we're doing mailers, we're doing qualitative interviews, we're collecting that first person on the ground data. We are also then, holding that data and analyzing that data for agencies across the federal government. So whether that's Social Security, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, Centers for Disease Control, Housing and Urban Development. Like, we've got all these different data that, it's traditionally been really siloed.
Right.
And we're really interested in, figuring out different ways to instead of having the data be sort of organized by federal agency, having the data be organized by the person. So a person has the data. It's not about the agency that collected it. It's about, making sure the data follows the person.
Do you mind if I ask you a small follow-up question on this?
Of course.
So in my work with associations and some government folks and a couple enterprises, usually the data thing is kind of like data shame, right? Like, people don't want to talk about the state of their data. Mm-hmm. They really rather ideate and not really focus on that. Mm-hmm. How normal is that? How do you help people work through that so that they can achieve their mission?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I mean, I think part of that's an excellent point, right? You've got to get the data cleaned. You've got to get the data quality right first. That's sort of the first step. And we're always willing to help with that. We have seen as many Excel sheets as you can possibly imagine.
I know, it's really amazing how many people use Excel still for their data.
People love Excel, and there's a reason that people love Excel. It's because it's familiar to people. It's a really intuitive interface. But you know what? We can build other interfaces that are just as intuitive, that are also connected and interoperable across agencies.
Very cool. Obviously, one of the biggest concerns with AI is making sure that people benefit from it, that they're not exploited. So equitable and responsible, explainable outcomes are really important in AI. How do you guys approach that to make sure those initiatives are on point?
No, that's a great question. So we have equity as a foundation for everything that we do at Apt. We have a separate equity capability that's involved with our governance process.
That's pretty cool.
It is. We've got some really, really bright thinkers, some really, just groundbreaking folks at our organization who are involved with thinking about equity, thinking about fairness, thinking about transparency. And part of the way that APT operationalizes that is by incorporating people with lived experience in our projects. So, if you're doing a project for Department of Housing and Urban Development, I want somebody who's been in all the different, that's been engaged with all the different services that are being provided there. I want somebody with lived experience of homelessness, somebody with lived experience of, getting access to that, having to access that data or having to help that person get housing and dealing with sort of the difficulties of that system when we're trying to design the next generation with AI enabling that technology.
Very, very cool. I love that. And really, it's nice to see a company at the forefront when it's such an issue, and usually people are just trying to ideate answers. You have answers. It's really nice.
Oh, thank you. We've it's as I said, it's kind of like a foundation of who we are as a company, of really trying to reach people, get social services to the people that need it most, and thinking about like how to sort of center the person rather than sort of centering the solution.
Very cool.
That's been our approach.
That's great. Humans first.
Yeah, exactly.
So one of the, I guess, tangents that path takes is bias, right?
Mm-hmm.
So obviously,
Yeah.
every data set has some sort of bias in it.
Mm-hmm.
And as we're moving with the AI algorithms, there's bias in those because they're created by human beings.
Absolutely.
So how do you address bias while achieving the potential that's available, or the flexibility that's available in a development, if you would?
So this is a great question, and I'll say my answer is going to be informed a little bit by one of our partners. So we were on a panel earlier today with Catherine Lang from VaxCare, and the way that she described it is, I think, really insightful, which is you can't just erase the bias from the data, right? If you erase the bias from the data by taking out that, that part of it, it's going to still sneak in somewhere else. So at least if you leave it in your data, you know where it is, and you know how to look at it, and you know how to see how it's affecting and impacting your models.
Interesting.
So leave the bias in, take note of where it is, and then there's plenty of ways around that too, right? So there's lots of opportunities to work with synthetic data, lots of opportunities to simulate different kinds of outcomes. APT has really been a leader in sort of the policy simulation space, where we're, basically looking at lots of different outcomes, and that sort of allows us to control the training data and allows us to, control the outcomes a little bit more.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. So what pragmatic advice would you offer agency leaders that are implementing AI, about your panel, but just generally about AI altogether and apps? Like what's the big message?
So I think, I think my big message, and this is from conversations that I've had with, state of California. We were out there a few weeks ago talking to different agencies there in Sacramento about, how they can implement AI. And I think, one of the things that we as industry have maybe not done as good a job of doing is explaining to them that we have the technology now to do AI in a secure and safe way.
Right.
So there's still so much fear about the risks, and there's so much fear about the downsides, but we have the technology.
I would agree with that. I mean, I used to work in the Chief Information Security Office at the United States Postal Service, and I hear fears about AI security. I really think to myself, wow, do you have information security policy set up? I mean, what's your CISO like?
Right. I mean, we all put our, I put my social security information into government websites. I put my password into my banking website every time on my phone, right? And I don't think twice about that. And that's because I've got two-factor set up.
And they have role-based and time-based access too.
Role-based and time-based access. If somebody tries to access my bank account from somebody else's phone, they shut it down because they don't recognize the device, right? So to me, I just see that like there's so much fear about like what are the negative possibilities. I think it's time to like accept that, if we're so focused on the downsides, we don't get a chance to think about the possible upsides. And the upsides for AI are so transformative.
Sure.
They have so much opportunity to transform people's lives.
Quick follow-up question.
Yeah.
Just California oriented.
Yeah.
Because it's California and it's Silicon Valley, do you feel like the California state government has an extra sense of urgency to implement?
I do. I think they've done some really innovative stuff. So state of California developed what they've stood up the GovOps department.
Oh, cool.
Which is, really focused on digitization, digital transformation, digital modernization, AI implementation, and they were the ones that were really behind this industry day. I think that's awesome. I would love to see more states do that. I'd love to see federal agencies doing more of that. And I do think as these chief AI officers kind of get stood up, we're going to continue to see more of that. But I am so excited for us just to be able to talk to these agencies, not just about sort of what the tech can do, but talk with them about, what are their problems? What's the quagmire that's holding them back from being able to do the thing that they got their degree in, right? Like you didn't go work at SAMHSA with your degree in social work to be working on Excel spreadsheets all day, right? Like how can we free people up to be able to do the high value work that they really went to school to do
and that they want to do
right. that provides more value in other people's lives.
Very cool, Nora. All right, one last question for you. Softball.
Okay.
All right, what's your favorite AI app that everybody should know about?
All right, so my favorite AI app, I have to say, is Claude, which is the generative AI app that's made by Anthropic. We talked about this a little bit beforehand. It's a fabulous large language model that is really built by folks who are really focused on responsible AI, doing AI in a transparent way. We used it with the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, where they got 46,000 comments on one of their proposed public rules.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a lot. And so we wanted to help them sort of sift through these different public comments. And so we used Claude's large language model, which took in this huge volume of text data and gave us summarized points and, did a really, really high quality job.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, we really appreciate your time today.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to see what you guys do with App Global.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
All right, Nora.